running around Pioneer Square.
Oh man, this sounds like a dream.
Then well, by that point, we were all pretty much moving to Duvall.
And how did you find Duvall?
Well, Larry and I used to go out to the outlying areas. Larry was a real hillbilly, so he was comfortable out there, and I guess you'd call a hillbilly too. So.
Had I listened to my mama, to what mama said, and I listened to my mother, what my mother said.
Good words.
Yeah.
Good words there we go.
Now I've been at home, baby, laying in my feather bed.
I was used to those kind of people, loggers and farmers and stuff. We'd go out there and we were just flaming long hairs, you know. Larry had that red hair that stuck way out. I had real long hair. I usually wore it in a braid down my back. Boy, we just, torqued those loggers. We'd walk in and you'd hear the place go quiet. We'd order a few beers. And pretty soon Larry would invariably start a fight.
Oh wow, really?
And then he'd say, "Gary, take care of this, would you?" And he'd walk off, and I'm going, "Hey, fuck, man."
Yeah, why me?
Yeah, so anyway, we had some big adventures that way. That's how we got into the Duvall. We initiated this huge brawl in the bar, but after that, we were all their friends.
Well, that's it, right? I mean,
That was the weird part about it,
yeah. Because it turns out you're country kids at heart, anyway. So.
Yeah, so we'd be all beat up with bloody noses, and they would say, "Well, we better stop fighting for a while and have a beer. It's just getting..."
Yeah, it's starting to hurt.
So we became friends with a lot of those guys out at, what was it, Gold Bar had the Prospector, and Duvall had the Duvall Tavern, Carnation had one, and so we ran up and down the valley there, and then Larry wound up buying that place out there. And then we had the piano drop, and then it was all over. But we were still commuting to town every day. We had our office in Pioneer Square for a while after we moved to Duvall.
Mm.
So, and I was working at the Helix and doing drawings for them. So we were going back and forth Duvall, Seattle, and dragging our friends out there and telling them how neat it was.
And that was back when Duvall to Seattle was a huge transition. I mean, it's hard to. I remember it as a kid. Like you'd leave Seattle and all those big buildings, and go out, and then you go out these roads, and you end up in just farmland, dairies, and big trees and little tiny roads, none of the freeway kind of things. Right. It seems like they have now.
Well, a lot of people thought that was pretty cool.
I bet.
And like I say, we had that piano drop, and boy, that was the end of Duvall. The hippies just swarmed out there after that.
So that's what you meant by the end? It was all over? Yeah. And the piano drop, and I've heard stories about the piano drop, but it's just kind of this mythical childhood legend in my brain.
Yep. Well, Larry's tombstone, it says, "The hippie that ruined Duvall." And that started with the piano drop. And I built a cabin there, and Hyde built a cabin. Your old man, he built a cabin there. That's where you were born. His cabin was made out of pallets and rugs. My house was a little more substantial. I actually had some 2x4s and stuff, some junk lumber. And I made it all out of cedar shakes that I split out of some blocks there.
Mm.
And I built this little cabin. At the time of the piano drop, the only thing that was done was the floors. And I got to look at the floors. They were really weird. And I thought, well, that's strange, because I went and bought a level and everything so I could do it right. And I put the level down, it said level. I turned the level over. Wow, it's a half a bubble off. So it depended on which side of the level I used. Anyway, so one floor was like this and one floor was like that. So But there was enough floor there that we used it for the stage for when we had the piano drop. Country Joe played there, and a couple local bands. And then
So you had electricity, sound system, all that stuff?
we had electricity. We had extension cords running everywhere. It was, I'm amazed we didn't set the woods on fire, but we had our enough electricity to run the amps and stuff. And then I went back 40 years later and I said, I wonder if that cabin's still there. And I drove down there. God, it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Except for now, those cedar trees that were just little sprouts beside the building are like that big around. They're kind of pushing in, and so the whole thing is kind of just squished in a little bit. But it's still there. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing considering
how developed it is, yeah.
Yeah, how much of it's gone.
So, but yeah, after the piano drop, we had the Silver Spoon. That was a real draw. Best cafe in the world.
Yeah, and I remember that
Yeah.
a little bit. The Silver Spoon.
I would do a drawing of a bowl of chili and take it in and exchange it for dinner with Patty McTighe. It was fun. So we'd all gather there. Denny Redmond was there. We had a great time. And then that went on until 71. I think I moved out in 72. Moved to Chesaw. And a year later the Hydes showed up. And Larry kept coming over. He'd come over every summer. A lot of times in the winter too. Hang out. For a while they were calling Chesaw to be Duvall East. You know, just as a joke. It was a long way though. Not many hippies. There was a lot of hippies here in the 70s. There was Dharma Farms and a couple of those outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Big groups of them, and the Circle moved in. They brought in about 40 hippies with them. So after a while, hippies were pretty common around Chesaw. At first, we ran into a lot of resistance from the cowboys, but that went away. And now here I am, 50 years later. I'm considered one of the locals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you've
Outlasted a lot of them.
it's true.
God, it was fun though. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and you came in too. I mean, not as came in as a participant, really. You know,
Yeah.
like a lot of people move out here, or what I see anyway. They move out here, they build a nice house, they live in a nice house. They don't really. They're not going to the bars. They're not.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty unusual, I admit, because here's a hippie that works.
Here's a hippie that works. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he can ride a horse, he can rope a cow. I'll be goddamned, you know. He can cut a tree down. Well, I'll be damned. He's not a bad logger. Oh, that's unusual.
Mm-hmm.
I think I helped the hippies in the neighborhood just by proving to them that we weren't all just on food stamps, you know, smoking dope, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Well, we smoked a lot of dope, but
Sure.
because everybody fucking grew dope in those days. You always had a few plants out back.